Hello and welcome to Things I've Learned This Week number 2. First, a little reminder about the sets things we've seen earlier, because obviously I was so focused on showing you guys the concepts of sets and what it can do to you and for you, specifically for you, I guess. Um, the more I forgot to just show off how to create a set to begin with, because my focus was more on using the sets to transform something into a set. So just as a reminder, just in case, here it is. You can create a set with just curly brackets and boom, you get a set. I guess like that's done at least. Then for the new stuff, do you want to see a magic trick, boys? So if I set two variables a and b equal elo and 200, and I want to swap them up, and if I do them one after the other like this, what are you gonna get? Knowing that Python is just reading your code top to bottom and executing every line as the way it can, well, you're gonna get 200 for each values, which sounds pretty logical, right? So what do we do if you want to exchange those values between the two variables? Well, you can just do it in the one line, just in the way that I set the values of the variables, I'm going to exchange them. And because Python is reading that one line at the same time, it's not like exchanging A and B first and then B and A. It's doing the two at the same time, meaning that you didn't set the values of anything before. And so here you are properly exchanging the values of those two values, and it's so useful. I used it to track the previous value during an if statement. I had a for loop in an if statement, so I could always keep the last value in an other variable that was outside of my array. Really useful, just basic Pythonic way of doing things, but super practical and something you clearly want to make yours. Then another thing that is just very Pythonic and pretty interesting, but not for everybody. So let's consider that you have a very big array of data and you want to work in place in your list because of memory shenanigans, because of if you're not working with Python, or if you are working with some kind of database, then sometimes you cannot just work with how Python handles objects in memory. So what you want to do is maybe use this statement. I can't remember where. I wish I could, so I could put the link of I don't know, I guess the Stack Overflow maybe, or the lead code forum. I saw that in. I'll be sure to write them down better next times. So what basically that does is that you're not doing an operation on the object my list. You're doing an operation on a slice of my list, and this slice is going through all of the values of your list with the basic values of a slice. So 1 1 1 or 0, sorry, 1 1 1 1. So you're going to go from 0, add 1, add 1, add 1 until the last value of your list. And because you're iterating through your entire list like this, you're not changing the object, but the values inside of it. Meaning that if you do any kind of operation to my list as a result here, as long as this is an iterable object, then what you're going to get is a new my list sorted. Why am I printing the type of my list? Just to be sure that that didn't change. Maybe I just kind of wanted to do this on the next example, but I messed up, so let's do it here. So you can see that my new list is indeed sorted, and I didn't know how to make that like noticeable for you people, but we didn't actually create a new sorted my list object. We actually updated the original my list object. I'm sorry if I'm not very clear, like obviously this is kind of new to me too. Just know that if you're working and doing exercises like lead code stuff, and the questions are about in place changes, this can help you as a Pythonic way of doing things. Second example is just as like using sets like we've seen last time. So doing a set of my list you can see that the class is still list, like you iterated through a set of your list, but you still then update my list as the object of my list, which is a list. That's a lot of times saying the word list. So you don't create a set object here, you're just using the properties of sets to iterate through a set and change your list's values. And to finish, you just showing off that you can basically just, I don't know, clear your original list like that too, just as another way of seeing that this is working. Then next thing is gonna be enumerate. Enumerate is like, I've seen that very early in my coding days, and I just cannot think of using it properly when sometimes it's so useful. So what does enumerate do? Let's start with this first thing. So my list is la li lu lay lo, and if I enumerate my list and print every I in enumerate my list, what I get is a tuple of the value and the index of the value in the list. So this allows you to work in a for loop with the two different values, which is index and value. And so you have loads of reasons why that can be very useful. For example, you can just iterate like this in your for loop, a and j in enumerate my list, meaning that this time you're gonna get the individual values in your tuple. Okay, so obviously you could do operations with 0, 1, 2, or 3. You could do operations with your value. You could do joint operations, like I don't know, maybe multiply the value by its index for some kind of reason. I don't know. So yeah, that's enumerate. And obviously, as a little example of operations you can do, here I'm gonna print the values in my list depending only on the fact that the index is gonna be pair. So if we have a pair here, we're gonna print, so we can see that. So let's go back to my list. La, li, lu, lay, lo, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I just get la, lu, and lo, which is like this modulo 2 is 0, this modulo 2 is 0, and this modulo 2 is 0. So yeah, another basic practical example. Let's keep up with something like, I don't know if that's gonna be useful to anyone, but it was really funny to see that actually. So this is the same thing as this. So the pass statement that you can use in any kind of situation where, I don't know, your for loop is not ready, your function is not ready, your class is not ready, or I don't know, you put pass in there and it's gonna just make it okay for you to test your code without completing that bit. Well, you can do that with those three dots, and obviously those two are not doing anything if I'm doing them. So what help is an ellipsis object. Okay, so this ellipsis object apparently is related to other languages that I don't know about yet, but I'd be interested into going into more languages when I master Python. Well, master. Actually, I feel if I feel comfortable enough in Python, maybe I'll try something else. And the point of this ellipsis object is globally to do a pass statement, but not as a, it's not a Pythonic way, it's more of an absolute way. So I guess it's interesting to know it, just because maybe someday you're gonna have to read through some other language code and it helps understanding it. So here it is. It's also a reason to remind myself and you guys that you can always do help on any kind of Python object to have details about it, which is something I don't think of doing. Like I'm a Google boy, when sometimes I could just do that real quick, and that's way more practical. Let's head towards the end of this video, because this has been long already. So let's go here with those two lists, hello my friend, and the other list, darkness old, and let's create a zipperino object of zip of my list and other list. What is this doing? Well, zip is gonna join your lists based on their index, if I get that correctly. What that means is that we're going to create a zip iterating through both lists, but this zip function doesn't create a new object lists, it creates an object that is a zip object. So let's just go and print type of zipArray now, just to be sure, and then we'll print the list version of zipArray now. So what's happening here? Well, boom, we have an object of class list. So what we're gonna do is make it a list thanks to the function in Python called list to see the actual list created from this class zip. So what's happening here? So hello is gonna be joined with darkness. Okay, 0 and 0 in a tuple of their own. Then my is gonna be joined with old in a second tuple of their own. But because my list is 3 objects long, 3 iterators long, and other list is only 2, zip is not gonna consider this last value. So zip is gonna go from left to right in your list and stop when the shorter list finishes. So you can see here that because you're gonna get a tuple, you can do lots of operations with that tuple. You can iterate through the tuple itself. You can enumerate through the tuple, like do anything you want. But you're not gonna have a whole new list. So you could use it to create a new list, but naturally this list is gonna be made of tuples. So you can see that obviously in that second exercise, if I add a dot in this one and my two lists have 3 values in it, then I get the proper long version, hello darkness my old friend dot. And so here we get everything. So yeah, that's it for this week's things I've learned this week. And hope to see you soon with maybe this time a project or something. We'll see. Cheers.